Good morning, my dear students. How are you all? So, children, hope you all are doing very well. I welcome you all once again for the online sessions of your science classes offered by Shri Guru Public School. So, children, now we will be heading towards the next lesson, that is how plants survive. That is lesson number 7, right? In this lesson, you will learn about types of plants, terrestrial plants, aquatic plants, insectivorous plants, non-green plants and uses of plants. So children, in this session you will learn about the terrestrial plants and aquatic plants. Okay. So as we all know, the plants have been categorized into 5 main categories. Okay, that is climbers, creepers, herbs, shrubs and trees, right children? So now, as we all know that, now let us see how plants will survive in different kind of climatic conditions. The terrestrial plants. Let us look into the terrestrial plants here. So plants that grow on land are called terrestrial plants. Different types of terrestrial plants are adapted to different environmental conditions. Okay. So here you can see the terrestrial plants growing in hilly areas. Okay, they have the pointed edges. Trees in cold hilly areas are usually tall, straight and bear needle-like leaves. Such leaves allow rainwater and snow to slide off easily. So trees in cold areas are usually tall, straight and bear needle-like leaves. Such leaves allow rain and water, snow to slide off easily. So for example, conifer, cedar and fir plants. These produces cones instead of flowers. Okay, so these are the examples of the terrestrial plants which grows in hilly areas. Okay, children, that is conifer, cedar and fir. You can see the picture of the plants. So here are some more terrestrial plants examples, that is plants which grows in the desert. Okay, like this is the coconut plant and the cactus. So desert are the areas that receives very little rainfall. Hence only those plants that need very little water can survive here. So these plants need very little water to survive. Special features in these plants help them survive in such conditions. So let us look into the aquatic plants here. Some plants are grown in water. They are called aquatic plants. Aqua means water. Okay. So aquatic plants means which plants grows in the water. So aquatic plants are of 3 types: floating plants, fixed plants and underwater plants. So there are 3 types of the plants, that is floating plants, fixed plant and underwater plant. Some plants are grown in water. They are called aquatic plants. So here you can see the examples of the plants. So floating plants have spongy bodies filled with water. These spongy bodies makes them light and enable them to float freely in ponds and lakes. So these floating plants can be found in ponds and lakes. Okay. So the stomata is present on the upper surface of the leaf, which is exposed to the air. Water, Hykinch, its Wolfia and Pistia are some examples of floating plants. So this stomata is present in the upper surface. So here are the examples of the plants, floating plants. That is water hyacinth, Wolffia and Pistia. The roots of these plants are fixed to the soil at the bottom of the pond. So the plants which are fixed, okay. The roots of these plants are fixed to the soil at the bottom of the pond. The hollow stem and broad leaves help them float. The roots of these plants are fixed to the soil. At the bottom of the pond, the hollow stem and broad leaves help these plants to float. The leaves of these plants are broad and have a flat surface that helps them to get enough sunlight and air. Stomata are present on the upper surface of these leaves. This helps these plants to absorb air for making food. So you know the stomata, right? The tiny holes present in the leaf. That is stomata. The leaves have a waxy coating to prevent water from collecting on them. So fixed plants have a very flexible stem which helps them to bend with the high current of water. This prevents their breakage or damage. So lotus and water lily are example of the fixed aquatic plants. Okay children. So here are the two examples of the fixed aquatic plants. So clear with terrestrial plants and aquatic plants. So now let us go through our textbook. So plants can be found almost all over the earth. We can see different plants growing in different places, seashores, desert, plains and high snow covered mountains. So here there is a picture of a cactus. Okay, you can just name them. So types of plants. There are different types of plants such as terrestrial, aquatic, insectivorous and non-green plants. So in this session we will read only about terrestrial and aquatic plants. So let us look into the terrestrial plants. Plants that grow on land are known as terrestrial plants. Land has different features such as plains, mountains and deserts. Some parts of land receives heavy rainfall, some moderate and some very little. So large flat areas of land are called plains. Lands higher than plains are called mountains. So you all are aware about the plains and the mountains, right? So mountains are generally colder than the plains. So dry lands that receives very little rain are called deserts. Yes, we are also aware about the deserts, right? So we find different kind of plants in different areas because plants need to adapt. So according to the climatic condition and the soil, there are plants growing in these areas, okay, to the nature. Conditions of that area to be able to survive there. For example, you will not find a coconut tree in a desert because a desert receives very little rainfall. Let us now study the features of plants found on land. So plants in plains. So in the plains, which kind of plants grows? Like plants growing in plains can be grouped into two categories. That is plants in area of less rainfall and high rainfall. So let us look into the less rainfall plants. That is, many of these trees can survive in very hot climate and may shed most of their leaves in autumn. For example, neem, pipal, gulmohar, ashok, sesame and sal. So yes, these plants are very big in size. Okay, they can survive in very hot climate and they also shed their leaves in the autumn season. So now let us look at the plants in heavy rainfall area. So these plants have leaves that remains green almost all the year round and are called evergreen trees. So these plants which have heavy rainfall, okay, the plants which grow in the heavy rainfall areas, they are evergreen. They don't change the color according to the climate. They are always green in color. Rubber tree and teak tree are some of the examples of the plants that grow in these areas of heavy rainfall. Okay. So these are the two examples of the heavy rainfall areas. So now let us see the plants which grows in the mountain side. Okay. Trees growing on mountains and hilly areas, example pine and fir, are usually tall, straight and cone shaped. So these features allow the snow to easily slide off their branches. Because they are very tall and they are in a cone shape, the snow will easily slide off. Okay. They are usually flowerless and have cones with seeds inside them. So they don't give flowers. They have cones with seeds in them. The leaves of these trees are needle-like and have a waxy coating to prevent any damages from snow. So these leaves of the trees are coated with a waxy coating, okay, and they prevent with it is prevented because the snow will not damage the leaves, the plant, okay. So now let us look into the plants in desert. Only those plants that need very little water can survive in a desert, like cactus, babul and date palm, commonly grown here. So these plants have developed certain features that help them to survive in the severe condition of a desert. Yes, deserts receives very less rainfall, right? According to the rainfall, this deserty areas, the adaptation of these plants are according to this desert conditions. Okay, the plants which are grown here are cactus, babul and date palms. Okay, to save water, desert plants have the following feature. So they store the water in them. They do not have any leaves or have very few of them. So these plants, the desert plants, don't have many leaves, okay, or they have very few leaves on them. So photosynthesis is thus carried out by the green stem. So the stem which is there, okay, the stem part will do the photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? The process by which the plants will make their own food, right? So where leaves in the other plants, leaves make their own food. But here in the desert plant, the photosynthesis process carries by the stem, okay. They store water in the stem which becomes fleshy. Most plants have spines or thorns which further reduce loss of water. So these plants have thorns on them, okay, they are very thorny, spines and thorns. You might have been observed the cactus plant, okay, because they have thorns on them because to reduce the loss of water in them, okay children. Now let us look into the plants in swamps. Plants have a sticky soil which contains a lot of water. It becomes very difficult for plants to grow here because their roots cannot breathe. Hence, some of the plants that grow here have roots that grow above the soil. Such roots are called breathing roots because they take in air and help a plant to breathe. They also absorb water and minerals required for photosynthesis. Breathing roots stick out of the water and have pores, that is holes in them, for exchange of gases. So, mangroves with breathing roots. Mangroves is the best example for breathing root plant. Okay. So, now plants on sea coast. Coconut tree grows in coastal areas because they can survive in salty water and prefer areas of high rainfall. The seeds of such plants are carried off to faraway places by water. So what happens? These coconut trees can be grown in the area where is more water, and this coconut plant can also survive in the salty water. And also the seeds of this plant will be carried by the water to different areas. Okay, that is dispersal of seeds can be done in other areas which is carried by the water. Now you might have been understood about the difference of terrestrial plants, right children? So you can also do this activity of the plants given here. Okay, mark it. Now let us move on to the aquatic plants. Aqua means water, right? So aquatic plants. Plants that grow in water are known as aquatic plants. There are three types of floating, fixed and underwater plants, as I showed you in the pictures. So let us look into the floating plants now. Stem of floating plants are light and spongy so that they can float on water. Duckweed and water hyacinth are examples of floating plants. So these are the two examples of the floating plants. They are light and spongy. Okay, so they can float on the water easily. So now let us look into the fixed plants in water. These plants have their fixed roots at the bottom of the pond. They have thin, long and hollow stem which reaches the surface of the water. Leaves of these plants are broad and flat with a waxy coating on the surface to prevent them from rotting. So rotting means getting spoiled. Okay, so this will not get spoiled because of the waxy coating present on the surface of the plant. Even though they are in the water every time, they will not get spoiled because of the waxy substance present in them. Okay, like water lily and lotus are the examples for the fixed plants. Okay children, so now let us look into the last underwater plants. Underwater plants grows under the water surface and have thin and narrow leaves without any stomata. So the plants in the water, inside the oceans, they don't have any stomata, the tiny pores. Okay, they don't have the tiny pores. Their leaves absorb gases dissolved in water directly through their surface. Tape grass and pondweed are examples of underwater plants. Okay, so here children, these plants, they don't have the tiny pores. Okay, that is called as stomata. They absorb the gases through the water directly. Okay, which is present in the water. So the examples are tape grass and pondweed. Okay, so this is it for the session children. Hope you all have understood with the differentiation of the plants. Now here is the small activity given to you. Please do that activity. I will catch you up with the next session. Until that, do take care of yourself. Bye bye.